So going into that clip, if you don't know, that's from a season or a season in a series called Lost. It's been around, it's been done for a long time now. Um, the idea is you can see he's got to type in some kind of numbers. He's got a timer that's counting down. Everything's in chaos, right? It's not what he expected, and who knows? But the whole world could be in his hands if he didn't get those numbers typed in. We don't know, but right? Well, kind of do, but if you've watched it, we talked about rent in the past. When you pay a rent, you're paying for something ahead of time. You're buying it in advance. When you're talking about a mortgage, however, it's a little different. When you're purchasing a home, that payment is paid in arrears. What that means is it's paid as the value accrues. So I want to show you kind of what I mean by that. I've got my little graph here. I guess we don't really need this. If we can get it to hide, we don't want the image here. Whatever. There we go. So what we have here is this 108 minutes, or for us, every month. I'm going to draw a graph here. This is kind of my visual way of interpreting it. So we've got just a nice little chart here. Here's money, I don't know, 300,000. I'm going to put a line in this spot right here. Maybe you've seen this before when we draw something like this. That just means that this is not to scale. 0 to 300 isn't encompassed by this right here exactly in proportion. And then we've got some stuff going on down here, which we call time. Typically, we're being paid monthly. So that's kind of what this is. And if you think about a loan accrues interest over time. Really, that's what we have here. Interest and a little bit of principal, because the way we've set these things up, our principal is going to be everything left over after we've made our payment and covered interest. So as long as your mortgage payment is larger than the interest accrued, you'll always be paying some of that mortgage off. As time goes on, which we'll later see, and I've shown before, that's going to reduce the amount of interest being paid and add more value to the mortgage. And another way, I guess, to visually look at it is this. In the initial onset of the loan, the very start, this is your principal, this is your interest, right? This huge area right here, this huge area right here is all this interest, and then we would talk about principal, we're just right there. However, as time goes on, more of our principal, or more of our payment, is going to principal as opposed to the interest. And that's a great thing for us, right? Because over time, we want to pay this thing off. We don't want to pay this thing for the rest of our lives. We want to get to somewhere here where when you look at the color, when you look at the numbers, or I guess the color if you want to see that, our interest is very little, very insignificant, whereas our principal is huge, and then eventually we pay it off. And see, the thing is, we're doing this every month, day in and day out. The mortgage payment, unless you refinance or you have an adjustable rate mortgage, but really even then, that's not really the same. it's going to be the same every single time. So you're going to pay up all this, you're going to accrue all this interest, and then you're going to bring it back down. We're going to count down that timer from 108. It's counting down as we get to this point, and then eventually the mortgage payment comes due, and we have to type in those numbers. So we've got to get it to come back down. Otherwise, all chaos ensues in the form of a foreclosure, eviction, being homeless, whatever, moving in with mom and dad, living in their basement with, kids and stuff. That just sounds like no fun. Notice again the value of our principal of our payment is always the same. Again, though, looking at this, the makeup of what we're actually paying is different. So I want to do an example problem here, just because I think that would be super helpful. We talk about our payments and everything like that. Let's say, I don't know, let's say we've got a $600K loan. Nice loan. We have a lot of money, right? It's great. We're getting 7.2% as an approved rate. We're making a 15% down payment. So that means that we have a loan of 85% left over, right? When we think about what we actually have the loan for, we talk about the buying home, the purchase. It's not I realize I messed up here. It's not a $600,000 loan. It's a $600,000 purchase. Different. So $600,000 purchase, but a 15% down payment means we're really only getting a loan for $510,000. Not too bad. And another way to look at it is you could take the $600,000 and multiply that by 85%, because that's the loan, and that will also get you $510,000. Both ways work just fine. Now, when we talk about when we close, so let's say we close on, I don't know, let's say we close on the 6th of, we'll pick a month that has 30 days. Let's say it's September. Easy enough. So September 6th is our close date, which means that we have 24 days of this happening, right? Well, actually, it's more like this happening, where we're starting to build all that interest and we're getting it all set up. And now we owe money on our loan and our payment. But again, this is only 24 days worth. We talk about finding the calculation for when we talk about the interest and everything else. We say, well, interest on the loan is 7.2%, right? 7.25%. You take that times the 510,000. The way I calculated it is we have $36,975. I got that even. That's our total annual interest being owed for the loan. We talk about how much interest that we're going to accrue. We divide that by 365 to find out our daily accrual rate, and we're getting 101.30. This is how much that we would be paying a day, and we're going to multiply that 101.30 times 24 days. And when we look at that value, I think I calculated $2,431.20. So this would be we call it prepaid interest. Again, it's not really prepaid. We're paying it after the fact, but it's essentially it's interest that wasn't in a full month, I guess. I don't know. I think it's a silly term for it, but that's okay. We know with buying a home, there's a lot of recurring and non-recurring costs. Another one that we look at is a closing cost, because I think it's important to expect that we're going to make some kind of a purchase or something in there when it comes to just everything that we have to do to buy this house to get in to say it is our place to stay. Typically speaking, most closing costs are going to be between 2 to 7%. So let's say, again, on this $600,000 home, so $600K, we're going to take this in two versions. One, we're going to multiply it by 0.02 and this 0.07, right? And when we take those values, the 0.02, I get $12,000. The 0.07 or 7%, I get 42,000. So we have a range. When we come to the table to go and finalize this home, we can expect that we're going to be paying between $12,000 and $42,000 in closing costs. It just depends, so make sure we've got the money for it. Make sure we have the checkbook. Where is... There we are. Another problem, and again, when we talk about loans, we talk about things that we might owe. Different purchase prices, different variants all over the place. I picked a $300,000 loan. I picked a, let's see, 5.75%, a 15-year mortgage, and we want to determine how much money is going to go to the monthly principal. Again, that's that money that we're going to pay down this loan with. So you'll recall this calculation here, this formula. That's just the monthly payment formula. Nothing new there. Again, this value right here is our principal. This is the rate that we're getting. We are going monthly. We are going for 15 years, 12 months a year, so 12 times 15. And when we calculate this, I get a value for $2,491.23. That would be our monthly payment on this loan. However, our interest is going to be less. If you take our interest rate times 300,000, we only get 17,250. So when we take that 17,250 and break it down into a month, that's $1,437.50 a month. So that's what our interest is. The difference between those two, I know it's got a bunch of extra numbers here, sorry about that, is going to be $1,053.73, and that's how much we're going to be paying towards principal. So the next thing we want to talk about is, if I can find it here, our amortization schedule. I mentioned this before. When we talk about purchasing a home, you can go and calculate the calculation that we did in the calculator there, right? We can see that. We can see this is a pretty simple calculation. Once you've done it once, you're good. However, when we talk about a mortgage, there's a lot of variables that come into play. What if we get a larger loan amount? What if we get a different rate? What if the loan term is different? What if the rate's adjustable? What if we want to know if we change something halfway through, right? And so when we talk about that, we're actually looking at some table just like this. And so we have this table. It's an amortization table, and all it really has, the basic pieces in our calculation were the principal, the rate, which we can look at as a monthly rate, which we'll use in a little bit, how long we're going to have this loan, and then ultimately this crazy calculation. Again, that's simply just that monthly payment formula that we did. And we set it up starting balance. Now you'll see monthly payment and then principal and interest. Mine switched. I'm sorry. It's okay. It's the same thing. Our monthly payment is going to be the same all the way through. Nothing changes all the way throughout the life of this loan. And I just set it as a fixed value of this, meaning it's copied all the way down. When you see those little dollar signs in there, that just locks that cell. So if you do something like an interest where it changes, I don't want it to change this value. I want this always to be that rate. Don't worry about it. It shouldn't be a problem for what you use. You can use mine for all that matters to me. But that monthly interest, though, if we look at it, it's really just this monthly rate right here times whatever the starting balance or whatever the current balance is of the loan. That's all that calculation is. The principal is just the monthly payment minus that monthly interest. That's all this is. And the new loan balance is just what we've paid at the end of that month. So we paid off $1,053.73. That's the difference between this and the original $300,000. You'll notice it's the same as this starting value. These two are the same values, and that means our interest is going to be calculated, again, fixed off of the same rate, but on this new value here, it's going to be less, which means if we have a fixed monthly payment, if If A minus B equals C, and A always stays the same, if you change B, C is going to be different, right? Our C value, our equals, our monthly payment is going to increase, and that's going to continue and continue as we go down the line. All the while, our loan balance is now decreasing. Eventually, we said this is a 15 years, so eventually we'll bottom out and we will be debt free. Assuming nothing changes, we don't refinance or, whatever, right? So that's the first one. And again, that calculation, I set it up as this. And you can, again, use my spreadsheet. D9, D9. If you want to look at like this piece here, this is going to highlight everything for us. D9 is our principal. D10 is our rate, annual rate, excuse me. And D12 is the number of years, and that's the calculation. So we need to understand if we make any adjustments to a rate or anything about time horizons or whatever, those are the numbers that are going to be affected. So let's look at another example here. Same setup, the only difference is I added this extra payment piece in here. And I want to just quickly scroll down and see what that does. You can kind of guess, but notice we're sitting at 170. We still have some balance left in that month, 170. So in the close to in the last year, we're almost done with the year, right? We've paid it off 10 months roughly early, and it's a smaller payment too. We're not actually going to pay this, right? Otherwise, these negative numbers, right? We're not going to pay $2,491 when we only owe this much left. So in the month of that, we've paid it off early. When we look at the calculation, the only thing we've done is taken same monthly interest in the very first one. You'll notice here and here they're the same. They're only going to be same there though, because we're going to have an extra $100 in here, which means our new balance is going to be $100 less, which is our starting balance the next month. And even if we just left it at that, we'd still be paying this off slightly early, or at least have a smaller last payment. But we keep paying this off all the way through, and that's making that change in there. Only thing that's added is an extra $100 to the monthly principal. That's another variation that we can use. The last one, an adjustable rate mortgage. This one's not as common. I mean, it is and it isn't. You want to avoid this if you're worried about the rates going up, or if you're risk adverse, you don't like the idea of taking on that risk. That's what that is. There'll usually be benefits to either a smaller payment or a better rate starting or something like that. This one's set up to be 6 months, and then in the 7th month, the rate goes from 5% to 6%. So what I did, in that month, notice here, this is the same value. If you look at the 293 here and the 293, same value starting, but we've got some different things going on here. What we've done is essentially taken this value here. In fact, let's pick one of these. Well, let's just pick this, because if we pick this and look at this setup, notice these values have changed. E9 is the same principle that isn't the 300,000 anymore. It's the new value of that month, which makes sense. E10 is now 6%. It used to be D10, now it's E10. E12 used to be D12. And then you can see what we've done is we've essentially said after 6 months we basically have a new loan, really. I mean, if you think about it, it's really just a new loan. And so as a result, we have to start all of our numbers fresh based on that new information. So this value here at the end of the day is going to be less than it was before, or different than it was before. The monthly payment is going to be different than it was before. Here we go. It's going to be different than it was before, which means the monthly principal is going to be different than it was before. Our interest is based off of a new calculation. It's based off of what we get. And so at the end of the day, we are actually getting a completely different number going down. And notice, let's just take a look and see what happens. Sorry about that. We have a different payment at the last payment that we owe, right? So we actually have a different payment because we've increased the rate, as we should expect, we're going to increase that last payment. Again, you can use my tables if you'd like. It doesn't matter to me how you want to set this up. You can use financial calculators to do this. I'm only explaining the concept of what changes you would make if you were to do this graphically. I will have a file attached that you can grab and work on that there. But as always, if you have questions, anything that I can do to help you, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to. Just shoot me an email. And until next time, see ya.